This project design statement is ultimately to create a MATLAB model of resource consumption on the moon for a lunar colony. We'll also factor in cost and how changing recyclability and mining on the moon, how that'll affect cost. And all of this will then be defined and set under certain parameters defined by our research. And ultimately, we want to see how changing our parameters will affect this cost and development of our colony over time. These models, confirmed through trial, error, and troubleshooting, reflect the resources available on base per day and the cost for resupply. The outputs are populated into arrays whose length is determined by how long it takes the population to grow, plus 50% of that time. The GUI will take in all of the different user inputs, such as population growth, the population max, the resupply interval, percent recycled on the base, and then the various display handles for the different graphs. And all of these different inputs are then compiled into the main function to create a shared handles variable. And this sharing of the handles is key to relating the different functions together. If this relation happens, the program can then run through population, oxygen 4, and water from the different outputs that have already been generated, and then develop cost, and ultimately then just display them in the GUI, as we'll now show.
So as you can see, there are different sliders we have to change the different variables such as population growth, resupply frequency, the rate of population or the population max, and then the materials that we're going to be recycling. So if we adjust these parameters, we'll be able to impact both the cost and the resource availability, as you can see in these two graphs. And so let's go ahead and play around with this. So you can see we can change the amount of days you want to display to the user depending on the desired mission length. So let's go ahead and kick that up to, say, 1,000 days. And you'll see here the axes adjust in both of these functions. And if we want to say have a mission that's maybe longer than 195 days, and we want to go towards, say, let's say weeks, put in terms of weeks, at least in terms of population growth, that we want to change that, we can bump this up to, say, every 34 weeks we'll have a resupply, or excuse me, a population growth. And we'll go ahead and still make that resupply frequency not in weeks, but rather in months. And so we'll do it, let's say every 2 months we'll do resupply. And so these are going to be slightly out of sync, but we can still accommodate for that in our models.
As you can see here, these little bumps, these reflect where the population growth and resource resupply are out of sync. The little bumps or resource availability is because that new colony needs to have enough resources to get to the next resupply interval.
See here the different kinds of resources that we need to be taking, such as oxygen, water. And you notice that it looks very similar, but that's just because of how our models work out, they're going to be consuming resources about at the same time. And we can also just do a sum of the resources that the colony will be needing.
Now, we can also change the population size.
So if we bump that up to about, say, 400 people in the colony, we can then see, just again, we're going to need more resources over time. Turn our attention to cost over here. We can see the two models here for the Falcon Heavy and the SLS, which are built into our models. And if we adjust the parameter of recycling materials, we can see a change in how much we actually need to take up. So you can see that the Falcon Heavy dropped here. And we can also see in terms of launches. So this will be just number of rockets per launch. And sometimes it'll just kind of level out.
Adjust some parameters, we can show a more dramatic change.
See, the Falcon Heavy jumps up.
Let's go back to original model.
And you can see here, this is just going to be the total colony cost for the entire mission, but that's not including the cost of missions that we need to send before as we account for in our model. And so if we just click this checkbox, you can see, well, A, need a lot more money, and B, need initial rockets to go up there. And so those are the basic parameters of the GUI.
Assumptions and parameters had to take into account resource consumption, which affected on a per day basis with a 30% contingency. Costs will be factoring in initial base construction. Per AIAA models, all rockets that we're going to be taking up are going to be rounded up. Rockets that we're going to be using are the Falcon Heavy to geostationary orbit and the SLS to translunar injection orbit. Cost and mass to those parameters were taken into account. Population size is determined by ULA models for the cislunar population in 15 to 30 years. And the intervals between population growth and resupply are intervals of 4 for population and just random parameters for the resource resupply. Mining is affected by AIAA models of base capacity over time on a per year basis.